History was made at the Garden Tuesday night in the Knicks 128-113 win over the Dallas Mavericks. So let's talk some Knicks basketball with Alex Trataros of Knicks Fan TV. Long time, my guy. How you feeling?
It's been a minute, Brandon. How you been, man? I'm feeling good today.
Life is great, man, especially after a Knicks W. So let's break down that Mavs game before we talk about the Clippers a little bit and what the Knicks have coming up. History was made last night. I'll let you be the one to talk about it because you've been a long-time Knicks fan. Break down that win for us, man.
Look, man, you talk about history. We had Karl-Anthony Towns and Josh Hart both recording a triple-double. First time in Knicks history, and beautiful to see last night, especially when you see, look, man, this game could have gone completely south in the first half. I mean, you had Najee Marshall going into his Karl-Anthony Towns bag, man. This man was efficient from the field, and these teams were just neck and neck in that first half. Just no defense being played at all. And the next thing you'd see, that Knicks team just came together in that second half. Defensive intensity's turned up. You see OG get the steal. He dropped 30 points last night. We already talked about Cat and Hart getting a triple-double, both of them being solid facilitators last night as well. And then Cam, look, I know people like to joke on campaign. He's considered the human slingshot, around here because he likes nothing. Everything's a heat check for him. But, he was playing good defense last night, very admirable, was a solid facilitator as well. It was a great team win for the New York Knicks, especially without their captain, Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, and because the captain being out and the great team win, we saw some of the guys be able to come up off the bench and get some minutes. A guy that's been a fan favorite and no stranger to the Garden from his days at Marquette, Tyler Kolek has had himself a nice little run. Only not 2 points last night, but 9 assists he was able to add. You think he should have more of a role on this team down the stretch?
Absolutely. Look, man, Tyler, the creator, as some Knicks fans call him, he's you just see how natural of a playmaker he is, bro. And when you just watch him on the court, it's different. Like you watch Cat, you watch Hart, they got their 10 plus assists last night, right? And you know that they could be connectors, they can find guys who are open. But it's just different when you see Kolek out there being a playmaker. I mean, the guy is able to break down defenses. He knows where his teammates are on the court at all times, and he's just able to attract defenses to have them collapse on him and just create easy open shots. And outside of Jalen Brunson, we don't really have another guy like that. Yeah, Josh Hart is the second creator on this team, the second playmaker that is, and then like we see with Cat, like he can easily read from the high post, but you need somebody who's going to be able to garner the defense's attention, and then create open spaces just for everybody else to operate. And that's what Kolek does whenever he's out there on the floor. So he definitely should have, some minutes for later in the season and postseason. The question is Tom Thibodeau going to do that? Because, it's not that he's a rookie, partially that, but that he's going to shorten it to like a 7-8 man rotation. And then if you think about Kolek, he's probably 9-10 on that depth chart.
All right, because Kolek is having himself a run and showing Tibbs that he can be out there and be part of that rotation. I got a two-part question for you. Jalen Brunson, we still don't know when he's going to be back and if he's going to be healthy. So part one, should the Knicks be patient with bringing JB back? Part two, do you think they can hold on to the number 3 seed in the East?
Yeah, look, I think they should be very cautious with Jalen Brunson. He's the engine for this team. He's the stir that does everything for this team. And when you have somebody like him who is coming back from injury, you don't want to take that chance of him getting injured again. I mean, look, earlier this week we just saw Jason Tatum go down with an ankle injury. He was in a boot. They're going to be cautious with him because they know the postseason is very important. You have Damian Lillard, who was just diagnosed with a blood clot yesterday, and he's out indefinitely. And shout out to Damian Lillard. Hopefully he recovers quickly and is back out on the court. But you never know what's going to happen, and you don't want to take any risks, right? We go back to last year when the Knicks played the Sixers in the postseason. Joel Embiid coming back from a knee injury, and then they pushed him. And you saw what happened. Now he's not even playing. He hasn't played really this season, right? And now it's questionable, like, is he going to be traded? What's his future like in Philadelphia? And so for the Knicks, Brunson is so critical for what this team does. I mean, we just see it. This team can get lost in the fourth quarter, especially with the last 5 minutes to go. And Brunson got the moniker Captain Clutch. Shout out to CP, man, for a reason. Because when you need an answer in those final minutes, he can give you that answer. And so I think they should be very careful with bringing Brunson back. Now, Can they hold on to the third seed? I think they got enough to hold on to the third seed. I mean, with the news of Damian Lillard having a blood clot and being out indefinitely, I don't know. I don't think the Bucks, it's going to be a little tough for them to try to make ground and try to work their way up to the third seed. The Pacers are probably the only true threat just because of their depth. We've seen Obi Toppin, we've seen Tyrese Halliburton, we've seen all those guys out there just have big moments recently. And for them, they could potentially do that, but I still think the Knicks have enough talent on this roster to just kind of cruise to the end of the season, allow Brunson to take a little bit more time off and be ready for the postseason. But hey, anything can happen in the NBA, but I do think they have enough.
All right, they got the second game of a back-to-back tonight at the Garden. They played the Clippers. I guess your expectations not only for that game, but playoffs as well.
So for the Clippers, look, that was the first game after, when we think about the West Coast trip, let me just walk it back. After Brunson went down with that ankle sprain after the Lakers game, the next team they faced was the Clippers. So it was the first game without Brunson. They lost that game, and it was close for the most part. But you could see that the team just didn't have enough to that they didn't have enough time to practice to really know how to work without Jalen Brunson. And even after that loss, I said, I'm not worried about this one. First game without Jalen Brunson, they'll be okay. And look, they've been okay since Jalen Brunson went down. Sure, there have been moments that they've lost games to like the Hornets, right, and the Spurs where they should have won. But for me, this game is just it's a test. Now it's a true test. The last couple of games since Brunson was out, you played the Kings, you played the Trailblazers, you played the Spurs, you played the Hornets, you played the Wizards. They've had a pretty light schedule. And with the Clippers, who are like teetering on playoff play-in territory, I think this is a good matchup for a team, especially this is the first team that they played without Jalen Brunson. It would be nice to see them come out, win this one, and give a true test saying, hey, we've learned a lot without not having Jalen Brunson on the court with us. And so I think this is a good rematch to see where the Knicks are and what they've learned to get ready for that postseason, because you don't want to just rely on Jalen Brunson in the postseason. You want to know that you can rely on Bridges, you can rely on Hart, you can rely on Cat. You can even go back to your bench and say, hey, we got enough here, to make a nice little postseason run. And so I think tonight's matchup against the Clippers is going to be a big one.
11 games until that postseason. What do you need to see from this team to feel like, all right, one, they're going to beat that narrative of they may get knocked out in the first round, and two, that they can get past the second round?
It's two things for me, Brandon. Two things for me. It's attention to detail and defense. Obviously, we know about defense, and the number one thing that people think about is, hey, how can we give guys, wide open spaces from three? So I think that's the first thing. Defense, got to work on that. Got to be able to close out on guys, prevent them from being, three-point marksmen for every single team. And when you think about the Boston Celtics, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Indiana Pacers, those teams can knock down the three. And so defensively, the team has to, be ready to defend at a high level, especially around the perimeter. Now, when it comes to attention to detail, that could fit into so many areas: offense, defense, just being able to work the fast break, communication. And I think that fine attention to detail is what's going to be critical for this team to make a good postseason run, because defensively, we've heard throughout the season, hey, the communication hasn't really been there. Mitchell Robinson's back. He's kind of been the forefront of that. We've had articles in the past. Shout out to Fred Katz, has written articles about Mitch, and I forget what the name of that article was, but it was like IQ and Mitch, leading that communication a few years back. And Mitch is part of that foundation for anchoring the defense. So with him back, I'm expecting things to change there. And then when you think about attention to detail, it's like even Josh Hart for the inbound play, just not making bonehead decisions in that manner. Or even Karl-Anthony Towns, who's prone to getting in foul trouble, right? We just need guys to just lock in and be ready for that postseason run. So it's defense and attention to detail, even on the offensive end, because they can get a little stagnant out there and it can be a little too much isolation basketball. So it's attention to detail and defense for me.
Lock in for 11 plus. That's the recipe for a run. All right, Alex, appreciate you hopping on with us this morning, man.
Brandon, thank you always for having me on, man. Appreciate the time.